Despite being tightly controlled and planned by the backstage powers that be, wrestling moves are all inherently risky. That's why WWE warns you not to try it at home. But some maneuvers are so dangerous that they may pose a serious threat to a fighter's life if taken all the way. Now that concussion research and concerns about fighter safety are becoming increasingly important, WWE has officially banned a few for good. Today we look at some of the most dangerous finishers that have been banned by WWE. Let's begin. First, we have Seth Rollins' Curb Stomp. Former finisher of Seth Rollins and the most recently banned one, Curb Stomp, looks totally bonkers. But many don't find it dangerous enough to be completely banned. The move, which Seth Rollins admittedly borrowed from pro wrestling ace Naomichi Marufuji, is a basic but effective finisher. While the fighter is doubled over, Seth just stomps the dude's face into the mat and gets done with it. It's an incredibly simple move to execute safely, as it allows the attacker to cushion their fall with their arms and even move their head to minimize the blow. The Wrestling Foundation has previously rebranded unpopular moves without much hassle. Psst, kids, ask an older fan what John Cena's finishers were once known as. But this one involves a whole lot of head blows, and with more attention being paid to concussions, WWE decided to get rid of it for good. No rebranding or child-friendly names this time, a full-fledged hammer to it. Up next, Pile Driver by Owen Hart. Curb Stomp might not have been as dangerous, but this one actually almost killed a wrestler. After a blunder by Owen Hart that accidentally broke the neck of the emerging star Stone Cold Steve Austin, this legendary finisher became the first move to ever explicitly be banned by WWE. As a result, Austin was absent from the ring for a whole year during the peak of his career and eventually retired at a relatively younger age, most likely due to his injury that he never really recovered from. The Pile Driver, which for many years was a go-to move for pro wrestlers, has several variations. They all basically involve turning your opponent upside down and slamming them headfirst into the mat. Ouch! The Tombstone, used by The Undertaker and Kane, is also a modified and slightly safer version of the traditional Pile Driver. Although the Tombstone is not banned, it's only used on special occasions, and with so much caution that the fighter's head never comes close to hitting the mat. The Pile Driver, being the more dangerous version, definitely deserved to go, and it was this ban that marked the beginning of WWE's efforts to find ways to prevent major neck injuries, which they continue to monitor to this day. Now we have Murdoch's Brainbuster. Brainbuster, popularized by Dick Murdoch, is one of the most scary-looking moves in the world of pro wrestling. It has risen in popularity in recent times as a more vicious version of a suplex. After lifting the opponent up as if for a regular vertical suplex, you instead drop them straight down, causing them to land mostly on their shoulders and neck. Physical and emotional damage. The Jackhammer, a trademark move of Goldberg, is a modified and relatively safer variation of a brainbuster, where instead of dropping straight down, the opponent is visibly pulled over, leaving them to land flat on their back. It's due to the lack of control involved in the move where everyone is falling, as well as the clear issues with dropping someone on their neck from a significant height, that the move is now banned by WWE for good. Here's an interesting bit of trivia for WWE fans. Did you know the standard vertical suplex is known as a brainbuster in Japan, where insanely risky moves are rarely banned, but the head and neck version is known as the vertical drop? Up next, Triple H Pedigree. The pedigree, which involves driving a wrestler face first into the mat while hooking the arms to prevent them from cushioning the blow, is a super risky move. While the wrestler's head is technically high enough to prevent contact with the ground, a botched attempt could inflict serious damage. It's no surprise, therefore, that the original version of Triple H's pedigree was immediately banned by the WWE, particularly after a few isolated incidents in which wrestlers failed to execute the move correctly and were injured in the process. As a result, the move made famous by Triple H is now used by Seth Rollins in a more modified version. The wrestler delivering the move releases their opponent's arms well before impact, allowing them to hit first with their arms, preventing the neck and head from slamming into the floor at high speed. Next is Randy Orton's Punt. Hey, remember when Randy Orton would kick people in the head and send them to the hospital for weeks with terrible brain injuries? Obviously, it was all fake, because because the punt, as we know it, was usually quite lame. They obviously weren't going to have Orton kick someone in the head with full might, but it did appear as though he was grazing them with his shin. In any case, it used to be his most lethal move, even more lethal than the RKO, and using it was a surefire way to finish a bout. But WWE decided it wasn't a good idea to promote one of their top performers intentionally hurting other wrestlers. And frankly, that's probably a wise plan. These days, Orton may build up as if he's about to punt his opponent into next week, usually in a long, torturous pay-per-view match where he's previously attempted every other means of victory. You can almost surely bet your bank that he won't be able to land the move successfully every single time. And then we have Brock's Shooting Star. A work of art and one of the most controversial wrestling moves, the Shooting Star Press was banned when Brock Lesnar nearly sent himself to the hospital while attempting it at WrestleMania 19. Apparently, Brock had performed the move many times when practicing, but never live in WWE. Since it's a top rope variety maneuver which involves aerial abilities and ring posts for support, the finish was already a high-risk attempt. Paired with the fact that it's also very easy to over or under rotate, as well as the inability to see where you're landing until just before contact, meant it had a significantly higher chance of inflicting serious injury. Matter of fact, other wrestlers who attempted the SSP, most notably WCW and WWE superstar Billy Kidman, were frequently roasted for being sloppy in their execution. Kidman had turned it into a storyline where he was afraid to perform it after legitimately hurting Chavo Guerrero during a match, when he drove his knees into Chavo's neck. Over the years, exceptions to the rule have been made when skilled performers have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that they can do it safely and consistently, such as Evan Bourne and most recently Neville, whose Red Arrow is an even more intricate twisting variation of the move. Superstars like John Morrison have also executed a standing version of the SSP, which is much safer since it's done from a grounded posture. Next, the Burning Hammer. Even if you haven't seen this one live, the name itself sends shivers down one's spine. This move is so dangerous that it has only been done professionally a few times, all by the same wrestler and never in WWE. Kenta Kobashi, known as one of the best Japanese wrestlers of all time, invented the move, but even he only used it 7 times in his entire career because of how risky it was. The technique is similar in principle to John Cena's Attitude Adjustment, which is a fireman's carry slam. The difference? The wrestler performing the move begins by laying on his back across his opponent's shoulders, rather than on his front, and rather than flipping over to land in a traditional back bump, he's dropped straight down to the side, landing on the shoulders, head, and neck. Despite the fact that the move is banned in several wrestling promotions, we've seen multiple wrestlers use safer variations of the hammer, such as the former WWE superstar Tyler Rex. Lastly, chair shots to the head. The rise of hardcore wrestling that followed the Attitude Era saw a dramatic spike in chair shots. Although it's not a wrestling move as such, it had been controversial for a long time. What was once a rare occasion of randomly hitting the opponent with a chair became a regular occurrence. And as the number of chair shots rose, so did the number required to end a single match. Everyone remembers the controversial I Quit bout from the 1999 Royal Rumble, in which Mankind took a ridiculous amount of unprotected headshots as part of the event's finale, and the horrifying images from Beyond the Mat documentary showed the effect it had on Mick Foley and his family. Chair shots to the head were quite rightfully singled out as a major contributor to health issues among pro wrestlers when concussion research was brought to the forefront following the Chris Benoit incident. Even protected headshots in which a wrestler attempts to block the chair with their forearms are risky due to timing issues which could result in a blow to their head and neck. This is why WWE has lowered the overall use of chair shots in matches and banned head blows over the years. Every chair shot you see now is delivered to the wrestler's back, ensuring their safety all the while entertaining the audience. And with that, it's a wrap for today's video. See you in the next one.